Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy President. Mr. Deputy President, last time I was in this chamber, I sought to comment on what I felt was a bizarre new concept of foreign direct investment. I didn't get far with it. You know, the bizarre concept of inviting people to set up shop here and then paying for their setup, paying the wages of their workers, and generally paying for their keep instead of letting them earn it in a free market that we have always been told separates the men from the boys. No sooner had I begun that sentence than the leader of opposition business sprang up on an ostensible point of order. And his exact words, I think, at the time was that I was not being relevant to what was under consideration. His words were that I was going all the way to Alaska and back. But as I listened to him today, if I went all the way to Alaska and back, it seems that instead of focusing on what is before us today, he has gone all the way to Antarctica and he has been unable to find his way back. It seems like he's gotten lost down there because, I mean, I'm hearing a lot of, you know, he challenged me on the issue of relevance. The president, Madam President, admonished me, and I relented, even though at the time I was already at the end of my presentation. But one of the things that the leader of opposition business seems to be making every time we come here, at least when I am present, and this matter of the 2.5% health and citizen security levy comes up, is that he seems to want to relitigate what is already a fait accompli. What is before us today is not about the justification or whether the 2.5% levy, that ship has already sailed. And he has to stop trying to drag us into the water to swim after what is already fait accompli. The levy is a fait accompli. It has already been debated and assented to by both houses of our parliament. It is law. What is happening as today is a matter of an amendment. It is a new tax. Its implementation is proving to be a lot more involved and complex. And the responsiveness which the government often talks about is that you have to tweak it, you have to adjust it, you have to take account of things that you had not foreseen, of what the social partners and what the economic partners and the stakeholders are telling you. That is what Parliament is about, you know. You can't get, you know, Parliament is a place you can't become weary in well-doing, you know. You can't become a place where you're tired of every time you have to come and you have to go through lines and correct them. That is the business of legislators. They have to go through lines and read through a lot of things and come back and tweak it. It happens in the mighty United States all the time, that sometimes you have to go and to look over things and to do them. You're not proud of it, but that is the reality of it that you have to deal with. And I found both Senator Fede and Senator Charles doing the same thing, going into all kinds of things to make a point that this levy is unjustified, this levy is cruel, this levy is killing people, it is raising the cost of living, it is doing so much wrong to the country. Anyway, let me just say this. Let me just say this. I hear you. Madam on the other side, I hear you. There is always a cost to government and to governing.
That's it.
There is a very cost to existing and being a person and being a citizen and living. There is a cost to running a country. We can't get away from that. And most times, that cost seems to be going up all the time rather than coming down. There is a cost. You know, when you're working, before you tell people about the cost of this, they say, but man, you're working, you have a salary, and there is a cost to being in a job. There is a cost to going to work. It's not about the salary, you know. Based upon what work you do, you have to worry about your clothes. You have to worry about transport. You have to worry about your vehicle. You have to worry about it. There is a cost to life itself. And no matter how much we wish there were no cost, We have to face it. One of the costs that we have to face is the cost of taxation. Throughout history, people have pushed back against it. They have resented it. They have rebelled against it. They have done so many things. But taxation is a reality of life. We have to face it all the time in our lives. What we agree and we try, and that is why we have those debates, is to ensure that taxation is not unnecessarily and unduly onerous. But then even among the most well-intentioned and the most intelligent and reasoned people, they never agree on what constitutes onerous taxation or overbearing taxation. The decision to raise the price of bread, which I hear the leader of opposition business seeming to link to the health, and you're free to rise up, but I heard the leader of opposition business referencing the price of bread as if the price of bread has something to do with the 2.5% health and security levy. It does not. The announcement that there would be an increase in the price of bread was made in December, early December last year. And the reasons for it were plainly stated about the rise in inputs and the rise of cost and the rise of all things. And it also stated that the government had been in discussion with the bakers in this country since November of 2021, for a full year that they were in discussions. And it was a case like no matter what we do, we cannot escape raising the price of bread. We have kept it down by government subsidy, by price control. We have done everything, but there comes a time where you can't do no more about it. This is sounding like when you label a man as a glutton. You label a man as a glutton, so you follow him around everywhere, and then you see him eating a roti, and you secretly take pictures of him, and you go and you post it, you know? You look at him, he's eating, he's a glutton, as if gluttons invariably don't need to eat. Even people who fit and who well controlled in the diet, they need to eat at some point. Stop using every instance of a man eating on something to show that he's a glutton. Or you call a man lazy, and then you call him at 2:30 in the morning on the phone, and then he answer the phone and he's bugoning in a kind of a, sleepy mumble and so on. And you say, you see what I tell you, lazy? You call and answer the phone, he takes so long to answer it, and because you say he's lazy, you don't need to sleep at some point. Even fit and unlazy people and hardworking people, they don't need it. So what is this thing about a tax that it is now being referenced as it is responsible for every ill and every evil in this country? But one good thing that's coming out of it, I heard a lot of reference about hypocrisy. For once, it looks like this levy, which is not what we're debating about the justifiability of it. It is a reality. It is a functioning and operational reality. It is a fact of life. It is a fait accompli. It is a ship that has already sailed. But for once, I'm hearing the opposition talking about it would have been better to have the 15% VAT. Yes. You have been brought to the table of concession that this reduction in the VAT was misguided and mistaken, because now we heard it would have been better. And you know why? Yes. You know why? This removal of the VAT and the financing gap, the fiscal gap that it left that needs to be filled, they cannot divorce their minds from the fact that the 2.5% is not the same, as a value-added tax. It is not the same. It's not calculated the way. But what it is true, you're right, you have two taxes now. So you have to administer and calculate and do a lot of things. Who caused that unnecessary complexity in the system? 12.5% is way below the VAT anywhere within the OECS space and so on. But I'm not going down that side again. What we are looking at now is the amendment to tweak and to target the exact areas. Anyway, let me move on to a couple other things. There seems to be some confusion about how you control prices between what is price controlled and what is zero rated or what is VAT exempt. We have price controlled items, and then we have items where the government is foregoing revenue by having them zero rated, not collecting VAT on them. They are not one and the same. You have price control items. Let's say the three that we're most familiar with are rice, sugar, and flour. They are price controlled, especially what comes through the government warehouse, and the government has the local standard to decide to say you can't sell the rice for more than $1 a pound. You can't sell the sugar more than 80 cents a pound. You can't sell the flour more than 60 cents a pound. You can do this kind of thing. The moment somebody takes the sugar, even I decide I have a lot of limes on the farm that I grew up in Monrepo and so on, I'm going to go and make lime squash and sell. You can't price control the lime squash at that point. Yes, price control sugar has gone into it, but you can't come and tell me that I must sell a pint of lime squash for whatever price. It's not price control, because right now it has become processed. Right now it has become something that has entered into the value-added thing that I have. And so when I hear KFC being referenced to show the impact of the 2.5% levy. Chicken may be zero rated for VAT. KFC is not, because KFC, even if it involves chicken, and they import all their chicken. I got that from the gym. They don't source their chicken. KFC, the moment it goes into that fry and it goes into that secret mix of ingredients that makes it finger-licking good, you can't control the price. You can't dictate to them. Government has done what it is supposed to do by zero rating the chicken, price controlling the sugar, but the moment someone takes it and they bring it into the value-added chain of the frying and the service and all the forks that they give you, the plastic and the tissue and the packaging and so on, you can't come. So to come and use KFC, a restaurant, an establishment that goes through its own value-added processing and manufacturing, that is a very poor example to use. And let me tell you this. I think you know, Mr. Deputy President, that in my ordinary life, I am a media worker. I don't even call myself a journalist anymore, because the days when I used to do strictly journalistic work, chasing after stories and so on, I'm a talk show host. I'm very opinionated, but I still have the skills and the techniques of a journalist in which my teeth were cut and where I was blooded. I call a senior executive of KFC, and I even invited them to come on my talk show. And they explained to me, they said, look, we are more than just chicken. Even though we import the chicken, but we are also about packaging. We also about tissue. We also about straws. We also about so many things that we bring in that are subject to the levy. So the determination of our prices is not only the chicken. And plus we provide a service. We have to pay people. We have to maintain premises that are air-conditioned, that we pay rent for. So that is why the levy had an impact. But it isn't like everything we sell is going to go up by 2.5%. You will find some things, there'll be a 5 cents on them. You will find something. Same way with someone at Digicel. They explain that, look, there's always been a tax, for example, on if you buy top-up and so on. So naturally, the services that we provide and so on, the levy is going to become applicable to them. Some businesses may decide to tell people that. Some may just raise the prices and don't explain to people why it is. Some businesses may decide that based on the level of profit that they can absorb the 2.5% without passing it on to people or telling them that they're passing it on to it. Some may make it a competitive thing and put out a notice. If I had the profit margin, I could well put out something and say, hey, never mind the 2.5% levy, committed to serving you. We are going to keep it at that price, and people will flock to them. Sometimes we know that they don't tell the truth. We know people who have made a great skill in this country of coming to sell things and telling you, this, my friend, it cost $20, but just because you're my very special friend, I give it to you for $10. We know they've made a lot of great success and a lot of great profit on that. It's all gamesmanship of salesmanship. We have all those things happening. So we have to stop. I hear about the politics, and they want politics. I think Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre, our finance minister as well, explained last year why he was not going to return the VAT to 15%. He did not believe it was the right time and that the economy could bear it and just come in through the COVID-19 pandemic, etc., etc., etc. He explained it. I don't need to go back into that, whether we agree or not, but it was explained. That the levy is not as pervasive, it is not as all-encompassing as the VAT would be. Yes, the levy is going to touch certain things, but the levy is coming where it is said that anything that did not attract VAT to begin with, you're not going to put the levy on it. So many things about the levy I find that have been explained, they are like being relitigated all over again as if in fact they are something new. And the levy is coming at a time when the very same government, Mr. Deputy President, has forgone revenue of 12.5% on such a wide range of materials, including building materials which are in such high demand. When you are not taking 12.5% on it, tell me how 2.5% can compensate for 12.5%. Tell me how it can. Tell me how it can. And you mentioned messages. The Senator Charles mentioned messages. You should see the flood of messages I am getting from people, if I name just the name of the person and the stature and the position that they hold, where they're saying Senator Charles is wrong on this matter of the levy compounding the VAT and the VAT on the levy and like there's a compounding effect. I've gotten messages from people, including people who hold positions in customs, including people who hold positions and so on. They're saying she's completely off target. So when we try to reference, which is what I think Senator Jean was trying to tell you, when you try to reference Hesse, when you try to reference anecdotal things that this person told me and that person told you, that is not a very empirical, that is not a very objective, that is not a very scientific way of referencing things. If you can get us figures, bring it to us. It's Hesse. We can do that outside, not in this august chamber of the parliament. We are called to something higher that we can give to the people that they can chew on and that they basically can take and run with it. Now, I've already said this, but I just wish that when we come to this chamber, that we deal more with what is before us. I know we're all itching inside. We have things in our craw and we're longing to go after something that we already want to go for. But it would serve us and the people that we always talk about we want to serve to deal with the things that are before us. To stop trying to relitigate things that have already been settled. There's a phrase in law. And you being a lawyer, Mr. Deputy President, I think you can relate to it. It's called stare decisis, I think you know it. It may not really apply, but stare decisis. The matter is settled. This matter of the 2.5% levy being in law, it is a settled matter. It doesn't mean it's a matter that cannot be discussed. It doesn't mean it is a matter that cannot be revisited. It doesn't mean it is a matter that cannot be tweaked, that cannot be modified, that cannot be corrected. And I think when you're on your feet, you pointed out that, yes, you have seen some sensitivity, some responsiveness to the comments, to the suggestions, to the criticism that they're happening. So we are open to that and we can do it. But I wish every time it would stop being a platform to come and to say over and over again how you vehemently oppose to it. There is the policy privilege of the government. And one notorious ex-prime minister said that as far as he was concerned, when a previous party was voted out of office, they lost their right to speak. I'm not going to take that line. All I'm going to say is that when this present government won overwhelmingly, decisively, in January 2021, they gained the right to have the policy preeminence and paramountcy to chart the cost for the fiscal management of this country. And if they have got it wrong, if they're off target, the next time the bell is rung, they will pay for it and pay for it dearly. Until then, we have to recognize the standing, we have to recognize the legitimacy of the government to chart this course within the law and to accept when things, especially the will of the people, have become stare decisis. Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy President.